This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. If you haven't heard, Joe Biden, who's playing the role of the bumbling idiot so that people actually believe that our country's falling apart because of incompetency instead of sabotage, because if people realized it was sabotage, they would rise up against this rogue government that is in place and they would no longer see the left-right paradigm. But because he's playing the role, and that's why they picked Joe Biden, because he is somebody you would believe would be completely incompetent, because for decades leading up to his presidency, his selected presidency, he has been one of the dumbest people publicly in our Congress. The things that he said, the embarrassing scandals he's been involved in, the plagiarism, etc. So it's very believable putting Biden in for them to do their infrastructure collapse, for the economy to tank, for inflation to run through the roof, and for all this other stuff to be allowed with crime running amok. It makes it very, very believable. But in those statements about his incompetency, while he plays this role, they do love to throw little truths at us. And of course, I'm referring to, if you haven't heard, I'll play it for you now, Joe Biden mentioning cannibalism. Because Joe Biden, of course, when he says something about cannibalism and how his uncle was eaten by cannibals, it's just another great way for them to dismiss the notion of cannibalism being a real, actual thing. And of course, Fox News is going to laugh this off and play into the dumbed down audience that thinks that he's just an incompetent, bumbling fool. But the reality is probably every single anchor on Fox News has been involved in some type of cannibal ritual before, of course, they were put on national television, because all these secret societies are entrenched in occult practices, which includes cannibalism, which I'll get into in more detail, that they're normalizing right before your eyes. But look at this Fox News clip about Joe Biden referencing cannibalism.
He got shot down in New Guinea, and they never found the body because there used to be a lot of cannibals for real in that part of New Guinea.
So, according to the Pentagon, Biden's uncle was a passenger on a plane that was forced to ditch in the Pacific Ocean for unknown reasons, both engines failing at low altitude. 3 men failed to emerge from the wreck, and Finnegan is still missing. But the U.S. government service record does not attribute his death to hostile action or to cannibals, although there was, in fact, documented cannibalism in that region in the mid-20th century. White House spokesman Andrew Bates did not acknowledge this discrepancy in the telling of this story when he delivered a statement for the press. He said that Biden was making the case of honoring our armed forces, not calling them suckers and losers, again, tying everything back to Trump guys.
Right, which he allegedly said and he denies. But the thing is, the president believes his uncle was eaten by cannibals.
Right.
Is that right?
This is what it sounded like.
Well, so Jackie, in the history of the White House, has any other president of the United States had a relative who they would imply was eaten by cannibals?
Can you look that up?
I would have to do a little research on that one, but I can certainly try. I had to do a surprising amount of research on this one this morning, so I'll get right back to you.
Well, let's think about world wars. Let's start with Woodrow Wilson and work our way backwards.
He implied that
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie, that his relative, the plane crashed in an area where there were cannibals.
So, of course, they laugh off and dismiss this, but if you're paying attention to a lot of the stories out there and a lot of the programming, they're actually conditioning you into accepting cannibalism in the future. There's Snapchat stories. I've covered so many of these things over the years, right? Let's just start with some of the obvious ones, right? They were promoting cannibalism to children with Snapchat, talking about the types of cannibalism and how it could be very beneficial to your health. We've had the New York Times with articles out there about the ultimate cure-all being human flesh, and they were normalizing cannibalism, talking about how our whole entire hierarchy of government was set up and designed based off of cannibalistic rituals. We've even been indoctrinated from a young age with fairy tale stories. People don't even realize when you're a child in school, they read you Hansel and Gretel. It's a story about a witch who has cannibalistic intentions, who's plumping up children to eventually eat them. And people still just go and they're like, it's Hansel and Gretel. It's a fairy tale classic. They literally are on autopilot, not paying attention to this stuff. And then they dismiss it. And this is why conservatives are in the same boat as Democrats, because they don't even realize that, sure, Joe Biden said that passingly. I'm sure Joe Biden was probably involved in the eating of his uncle. And yes, the story itself, I'm not saying that there's any truth to it, but what there's truth to is the notion of cannibalism. And when they dismiss this and make it sound like he's a senile old man, they're missing the boat. Because all these people in Congress are involved in these types of rituals. I mean, how many times have we heard Joe Biden even mention being Satan reincarnate, mentioning drinking the blood of children? You remember some of these clips?
I don't care if you think I'm Satan reincarnated.
Are there people in the Republican Party who think we're sucking the blood out of kids?
I'm not sure. Are there people in the Democratic Party?
And again, if you haven't been paying attention, the programming has been out there. It hasn't just been in horror films, fairy tales. It's been all over the place over the last 20 years or so, specifically with them promoting cannibalism. Santa Clarita Diet on Netflix. All of these articles have come out over the years about how our society used to be cannibalistic, but all of a sudden they're not anymore, right? Like, here's an article that's out there before I show you a few clips so you can see for yourself how a lot of these shows that reveal what witches and Satanists are really involved in, which isn't just human sacrifice, it's human sacrifice and cannibalism. They go hand in hand. They don't just kill these people in sacrificial rituals, they also eat them and ingest them, right? And we know about that certain chrome that you're not allowed to talk about and how important that is to them as well. But this is another story that's out there at the same exact time with the headline, Team Finds Evidence of Commonly Conducted Ritualized Human Sacrifice Across Europe in the Stone Age. So what I wonder is so people read this stuff, right? And what do they think? That these people were just idiots 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 1,000 years ago? They see all these stories about, oh, they used to be cannibals. Oh, they used to perform human sacrifice. And then what did they just stop? What did they perform it for is the first thing you should ask. Why were they doing it? They just couldn't find food, so they ate each other? Oh, okay, then tie in this whole notion of why they were committing human sacrifice and becoming cannibals and then suddenly stopping doing it, right? All of a sudden they learned how to farm. Is that what we're supposed to believe? No, what has happened is these people have been exposed for committing these rituals and partaking in these things. So they had to hide these things and make you think that these things don't occur. But there's actually a specific group of people whose teachings promote this specific thing who are in power all across the world right now, who you can't question or ask any questions about the teachings in their specific books. In fact, they just passed a bill which correlates with this current war going on to make sure that you don't ask specific questions, which is part of why this war is going on, in addition to many other agendas that tie into it, of course, with the bringing about of World War III. But specifically, these bills that'll be passed in America so that you can't talk about this specific group of people, because then you'll find the origins of human sacrifice and cannibalism, and of course, a lot of this stuff relating to children, which goes back to Babylonian teaching. So this article's out there about team finding evidence of commonly conducted human sacrifice, and nobody blinks, right? A team of archaeologists affiliated with several institutions in France and one in Germany has found that ritualized human sacrifice was common across Europe. Oh, it was common across Europe, right? And then Biden mentions the fact that his uncle, well, he died in a plane, he fell out of a plane crashed, and they weren't able to discover his body because he was likely a human sacrifice, probably from his own ancestors, his own brothers and sisters, probably. Hence, Joe Biden being put in Congress, right? They only get in these positions if you're in these secret societies. And these are rituals that they commit. So they're normalizing all this stuff underneath right underneath their noses. They're showing you all these shows about cannibalism. People just think nothing more than, oh, Santa Clarita Diet. Oh, they're prone to cannibalism, right? Then they kind of put these undertones in about the benefits of blood, right? The benefits of young blood, like I just covered. Not many people are watching any of my videos anymore, which of course is how they've ended up tearing down a lot of my work, is by removing my audience. But nonetheless, I'll continue to fight. But I recently put up another video about young blood, experiments with blood transfusions. It's not a real experiment. They're just trying to normalize it to you by putting these articles out, which are repetitive articles about experiments being done with the blood of mice versus the blood of young mice, giving it to an older mouse, and then suddenly these older mice are reversing aging, right? This is all normalizing occult practice. So The same can be said with these articles that are out there where they're constantly talking about the benefits of cannibalism. Oh, did you know that you have more energy? Oh, did you know you can reverse aging? And people don't even realize what it does to them subconsciously when they hear and see these stories. They're being trained and taught that there's benefits to this. And the more, like I've been saying, people become narcissistic and obsessed with themselves, with the way social media is making people narcissists without them realizing it, the more that happens, when they hear about benefits of these types of things, of human sacrifice, why people in the Stone Ages were committing it, why they were involved in it, they'll start going, oh, it's not that bad. Because they've been desensitized to it. And they go, oh, what's the big deal? Oh, I can live longer. Me. I don't even realize I'm a narcissist. Me. I'll be able to post on my Facebook for another 100 years and live longer and live forever. What? Okay, there's benefits to it. Science tells us. Science. But the reality of the matter is they've been trained throughout the years in film to see cannibalistic acts in front of them, and they think it's nothing more than entertainment. But when you study mind control and mind control programming, this is training. It is conditioning you. Okay, you might see it at first and go, like the first time you saw a horror movie, and then you've seen 100 more, and 200 more, and 500 more, and you're like, well, I've seen this before. And you don't realize that suddenly you're not jumping out of your seat. Suddenly you're not grossed out by the gore that you're seeing because you're being trained and conditioned into accepting it. Suddenly it's not so much, oh my gosh, this is so gross, I could never look at this type of stuff again. You're just seeing more and more, and they're getting more and more disgusting, more and more out in the open, to the point you become so desensitized you don't even realize you're partaking in these rituals. And that's eventually what's going to happen. This is some compilation of some of the clips where they promoted cannibalism over the years.
A fairy tale has a way of getting into your head. Make your acquaintance. I'm called Gretel, and this rough one here is my brother Hansel.
There's too much and it isn't right.
You're scared.
There's something wrong here.
I'd hate for you to start something you can't stop.
Feast of Feasts, Sabrina, is one of our coven's holiest holidays. It's similar to mortal Thanksgiving, but
the menu is slightly different. The witches would have starved and died that winter had it not been for the sacrifices of Freya, the youngest, strongest witch.
Freya slit her own throat and offered up her body so that the coven would have sustenance through the cold months into the spring.
Wait, are we seriously talking about cannibalism?
It's not unlike the Donner Party.
The Feast of Feasts is an annual demonstration of our devotion to the Dark Lord.
Eligible because
it is the Dark Lord's will, in any case. The 14 tributes draw lots to see who will win the honor of being queen.
What do you get as queen?
You get to be the main course.
The queen is eaten? And witches participate in this?
A ritual sacrifice, it's slightly different.
Brethren, sisters, a very unholy night to you all.
And also to you.
Each year, the Feast of Feasts commemorates the selfless sacrifice that saved our coven. Cannot fulfill her duty as Queen of the Feast.
Blasphemy! We are ravenous. We must feast.
Moreover, the Dark Lord has revealed to me.
Freya lives! Praise Satan! for you, Michael. It's all for you. Hail Satan!
But something happened to my wife. She threw up this. I didn't have formaldehyde, so I saved it in olive oil. She's acting different. I can cook that for you, sweetheart.
I'm fine. I do like the way that I feel. I have endless energy and I sleep 2 hours a night.
You eat people.
I know. It's just that I'm so much more confident.
I will survive. I know how to love.
So again, Joe Biden bringing attention to this and then the mainstream media and stuff dismissing it. While there's all these articles out there over the years that I've covered, every time they come out, articles about, oh, you know, they've discovered 100 years ago that people used to eat each other. I cover it. I cover it so you could see how they're telling you this stuff in two different ways, right? They're desensitizing you and mocking it out in the open. Look how this is conservative media, right? Fox News, Joe Biden playing the role of bumbling fool, and then them dismissing the notion of cannibalism like it's not even a real thing, when they should be educating their audience. And of course, we know why they're not educating their audience, because they're all involved in it. You don't get on Fox News unless you're in the secret societies involved in doing the same exact practices. And again, they don't want anyone to realize that this stuff is going on until, of course, everybody's conditioned enough into accepting this out in the open. So Biden, again, suggested twice that the U.S. was unable to recover his uncle Finnegan's remains after Finnegan's plane crashed near New Guinea during World War II, because there used to be a lot of cannibals in the region, and then tie in the fact that he's on TV every day saying things that sound completely insane and stupid, right? Saying all these things about, you know, he's naming people that have been dead for 30 years, saying he talked to him yesterday. And they, you know, people don't realize that they're being gaslit. You know, they see this stuff and they're, because it is very believable with Biden if you know Joe Biden's history. Now, a lot of these people out there, these young Gen Zers, et cetera, that see Biden, they only see what they see. They don't pay attention to the stuff that he's been doing for 50 years. He's always been incompetent, right? He's not senile now, but he's playing the role perfectly right now. He's always been a bumbling puppet of a fool who's been caught plagiarizing speeches from JFK, et cetera. He would never, ever, ever have garnered the amount of votes that they claim that he voted if the voting was actually real. And that makes this whole thing work better for what they're trying to do, which is make you actually realize that the voting is rigged instead of realizing the voting is fake. It's not rigged, it's fake. There's a big difference between the two, okay? Rigged would imply that when you go and you vote, your vote does count, but a certain group of people are manipulating it so that your vote doesn't have an outcome on the election, when the reality is you've never had a say in this. And then when you realize your vote doesn't count, you realize psychologically that you're being played. And then you start realizing, well, who's involved? Who are the players? It's not just Democrats, it's both sides of the aisle. And that's why when this election comes in 2024, this fake election, there are going to be so many false flags and psyops that come out of it, and we're all being programmed beforehand for the outcome of that election. Because again, nobody realizes it. They're like, who's going to win? I wonder what's going to happen. There's not going to be an election. What happens in this election, you've already been programmed to react a certain way. Democrats will not believe if Trump wins. They'll think it's rigged by Russia. And the other side will think it's rigged, that Democrats have rigged it. And thus the separation between blue and red states will finally come to a head. They will start the division. They will start separating from the union. This is what is coming. And they've been programming us with that. Now, I don't mean to go off topic into the red and blue states, but it is important to note that all of these people in Congress, left and right, are involved in these things. And the more they condition you and the more that they dismiss the reality of the matter, which is they tell you that human sacrifice occurred. They tell you that cannibalism occurred, that it ran rampant forever, right? They don't tell you why, though. right? They just want you to think that these people were barbarians. They were running up to people 50, not 50, but 100 years ago. They were running up to people like, I want to eat you, and they were eating one another, right? Because they don't want you to believe that black magic and Satanism is actually real. And the conservative side doesn't either, because they want to continue to normalize this stuff. They don't want you to think that it's real. They don't want you to actually think that when these people are mentioning this type of stuff right in front of your faces, that there's actual reason for it, right? They just want you to think nothing more than, oh yeah, cannibalism, oh, kooky, crazy idea. While they're telling you underneath all of that they were performing these rituals without saying, well, why did it stop? Why did they suddenly stop? Was it because you stopped telling us about this stuff and you want us to think it's a different world, that we've evolved so much since then? They don't tell you about it going on now because there'd be a mutiny. There would be a revolution because people aren't programmed enough into accepting it. But 10, 15 years from now, the more this programming goes on with cannibalism and accepting cannibalism and the benefits of blood transfusions of young people, and the more they tell you that, hey, did you know if you eat a human heart, you actually can live 50 years longer? The more those types of stories keep coming out, that experiments with anti-aging keep coming out. 20 years from now, hearing about cannibalism won't be a big deal. They'll be telling you to go to your grocery store to buy human liver so that you could live longer and have better health benefits. That'll be the only meat that they allow you to eat. That's what's coming next. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.